Shalum. Shalum, and welcome to Return to the Promised Land. My brothers and sisters, I have mentioned that I believe that Yashar'al will be gathered from the four corners of the earth before the physical return of Yahushua Mashiach. I've shared on many occasions how I believe these processes will come to be, some of the tasks that are expected of us, O Yashar'al. This is the 7th installment of Return to the Promised Land. I want to bring attention once again. I want to mention, if you haven't heard it before, then this would be the first time you're listening to it from me, if you haven't heard me speak it before. My name is Symmanayah. In this segment, I want to bring your attention to tasks and processes, as well as set-apart expectations. I say to you again, Shalom, Shalom. I am compelled to believe, my brothers and sisters, that as we begin to continue to study the scriptures, as we begin to continually unearth or become aware of things that were hidden from us in times past regarding our identities, our culture, our heritage, as we begin to face an awakening that presents before us information that we've never realized, soon and very soon, all of this information that we are receiving as we are growing in discernment, all this information that we're receiving, that we receive to be true, we will recognize just as much as there's a flood of information coming at us, some which is true and set apart. There's also a flood of attacks from the enemy. Most of us think that it's just a different religious sects such as Christians, Muslims, Jewish community, and all the others that are attacking us. But I say to you, those are the obvious, my brothers and sisters. We must begin to realize there's a reason why it says in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17, I believe. It says, because it is time for judgment to begin at the house of the Almighty One, and if firstly from us, what is the end of those who do not obey the good news of the Almighty One? My brothers and sisters, there's a judgment. There's a cleansing that is going before Yashar'al. And many of us will realize that in this judgment, in this cleansing, it is the fruit of a promised discipline from the Almighty Father. And I mention it very often, my brothers and sisters, for it is He who will refine us. It is He who will make Yashar'al whole. It is He who will prepare us and direct our path through His set-apart Spirit, sent in Yahusha's name, working in us, through us, one towards another, and through His chosen leaders. My brothers and sisters, I have said all too often that there is much work to do. It is time for us to realize that soon and very soon, set-apart expectations will begin to rise. In other words, we will have expectations on what must be done. Tasks and processes will prove to generate energy as we confirm that we are indeed led by the Spirit of Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name. I submit to you, O Yashar'al, though these messages appear to be repetitive, or you find me repeating them all too often, soon and very soon, they will begin to be of importance to those who may be listening for the second, third, fourth, or fifth time or more. Some may get it initially, some may not. Some may not realize that even when you drink a glass of water, we thirst again and we want more water. Sometimes reinforcement is necessary. My brothers and sisters, and as I say, a warning repeats itself over and over until it's no longer needed. The time will come when we must press forward in spite of those left behind. The times are ahead where we must march to the direction that the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah is sending us, in spite of loved ones that will be left behind, or those who face physical death in the coming days. In other words, we will not have time to be attending funerals in some cases. We will not have time to be showing sympathy or empathy for those left behind. This doesn't mean that we're insensitive. Just know this, the clock ticks forward. And to tell the Most High, well, wait until I do this and wait until I do that, we may find in some cases it's not acceptable. The time is now, O Yashar'al, to begin to ask yourself what tasks, what processes can we expect ahead? What set-apart expectations lies with us who live right now? Yashar'al, I am compelled to believe that in asking questions, generating discussions with the intent to discover, confirm, and or reaffirm set-apart actions, that this is a necessity for the bringing together of a set-apart nation. There's a difference in asking foolish questions versus seeking to discern what is true. We will, in due time, discern how to truly be as iron sharpened iron. Look around, O Yashar'al, and begin asking questions. When we witness mores, teachers, or any other outspoken individual, when they present their message, we must ask ourselves, do we find something flawed in their words? Is it something missing? Is it feeding our spirit? Are they feeding our spirit? Are they equipping us with things that we could take with us if we found ourselves all alone? We would have received the strength to press forward. Be not afraid to inquire about conflicting teachings. If you're with a more and follow them and you don't understand what they're saying, seek out understanding from them. Seek to discern whether they're just giving you a bill of goods, just selling you something, just to be saying something. Or do you discern truth and life from their words? Do not be shut down by anyone who stops you from asking questions, my brothers and sisters. For truly in questions comes answers. Do not be overtaken by any more teacher or any outspoken individual who grab one scripture or more to show you in an effort to stop you in your pursuit of the truth. You see, picking scriptures, it is not for us to just grab the scriptures and just throw them at each other. The scriptures basically bear witness to our actions, to our behaviors. When the scriptures are made alive, they bear witness. They make known that indeed the Spirit of Yahushua has made us aware of his teachings, his instructions, his directions. Though man has tampered with the scriptures, though man have added so many different translations, they cannot tamper with the Spirit of the Almighty Father. In the coming days, my brothers and sisters, we will find that as we learn, as we study, as we grow, as we find ourselves in the midst of wise, set-apart counsel, we will discover the task and processes necessary to be bound together as a loving family, as a set-apart nation, ready and willing and demonstrate movement as the Spirit of the Almighty Father works within us. I call upon each and every listener to receive these words and begin to examine all the things that come before us. Let us begin to examine all those who carry a title. For judgment begins at the house of the Almighty Father, and I believe it will begin with the leadership. You see, my brothers and sisters, the scriptures tell us not to attack leadership, not to rebuke an elder, but it does not tell us not to inquire, not to ask questions. It does not tell us that it's impossible for an elder, a judge, a leader, a pastor, or more to be wrong. It do not tell us that. You see, there's a time and place for everything. And you see, my brothers and sisters, when it talks about us being as sovereigns or kings and priests, it also means when the Spirit of Yahushua rise up within us to speak to that more, that leader, that elder, that judge, that bishop. You see, none of us are immune to set apart instruction, reproof, and correction. I call upon every listener of these words to begin asking questions. When we give our time and attention to anyone, let us ask ourselves, is that person, is that individual, are those individuals contributing towards the building of an awakening nation, a set-apart family? Are they contributing towards the strength that is necessary to bring the unity that is required in the coming days? My brothers and sisters, prayer and discussions are important. It's time to break away, not just have these little small cliques where you say, oh, I disagree with this leader or that leader. If you disagree, leave. Leave if you already did what you believe you were directed to do. Do not stay under the tutelage, under the leadership of those that are self-righteous or self-appointed. Do not stay under leadership because you believe the majority are right, based off of numbers. Stay if and only if you believe the Spirit of Yahusha is telling you to be a light in the midst of darkness. You see, my brothers and sisters, if we're using our time to just hang on to something that's compromising, we may be indeed in a position where we're missing where we're supposed to be in receiving all that we are supposed to receive. The time is now, my brothers and sisters. Processes, tasks, set apart expectations. Let these be a part of the thoughts and the discussion in prayer. My brothers and sisters, for every task given by the Almighty Father, there's a process, there's a method for achieving such. Yes, there will be times when people say, prove it, show me, prove it to me. Everything will not be seen immediately. Some proof will come immediate, some will come in due season. My brothers and sisters, the day is at hand where we must and we will find ourselves recognize the importance of Hebrews 11:1. It said, and belief is the substance of what is expected, the proof of what is not seen. And dropping down to the 6th verse, I'm in Hebrews 11. I read 11:1, now I'm reading 11:6. It said, but without belief it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to the Almighty One has to believe that he is and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. My brothers and sisters, we will come to realize what it means to subject ourselves to each other. Even with the titles, even with the ranks, even with the structure and order, there are times each and every one of us must and will come to know what it means to subject ourselves to one another. Are we aware of Ephesians 5:18-21? If not, my brothers and sisters, let us visit that. And let us, as we visit these words, think about the tasks and the processes. Let us think about building expectations so that we have an eye for what is expected. Ephesians 5:18-21 says, and do not be drunk with wine in which is loose behavior, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to each other in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs, singing and striking the strings in your heart to the Master, giving thanks always for all to the Almighty One, the Father, in the name of our Master Yahushua Messiah, subjecting yourselves to each other in the fear of the Almighty One. You see, my brothers and sisters, subjecting yourselves, many people, I've yet to hear anyone say that subjecting yourselves is recognizing that the Almighty Father works in us towards one another. So there are times where we must be quiet and listen to whom the Almighty Father has chosen to speak through. There are times we must speak. We must understand that the need to lean on the Almighty Father, the need to discern when to speak and when to be silent, when to move and when to be still, requires us to pursue his will, recognize his will, and respond to his will. My brothers and sisters, if we are able to believe and know that we serve an almighty living one in Yahuah through Yahushua Mashiach, then we should be able to know out of such position comes set apart expectations. In other words, if we believe this, there should be some expectations that we have. And these expectations should be like a lens which we see and recognize the rudiments of set apartness, the things that bring about unity. End times will get intense. I cannot say it enough, my brothers and sisters. There's work to be done, so much work to be done. Are you a driver? Are you a carer of children? Are you a teacher? Are you a leader? Are you a cleaner? Are you a gardener? Are you a farmer? Are you one who is good with relaying words correctly? Are you a scribe? Are you a carer of senior citizens? Are you in the medical field? Are you one who has specific traits that you've acquired, whether it be through college or through non-traditional means, or whether it means you have skills that someone has trained you in, areas that someone has trained you in. Every individual in Yashar'al is important. And we must recognize that structure comes of Yashar'al. There will be tasks, there will be processes. Let us begin to ask. If someone say, I am this and I am that, let's ask, what does that mean? What do you think you should be doing for Yashar'al? What are you doing for Yashar'al? If someone is walking around and say, I don't know what my calling is, I don't know what my skill is, are there brothers and sisters among us that can say, this is what I see in you. This is what I actually see you doing. It's time for us to identify that every member of the body of Yashar'al is important. Soon and very soon, we will be drawn together, my brothers and sisters, and the world will witness the 144,000 in the great multitude. And as these things occur that are necessary to bring us together, remember the flesh war against the spirit. And that is not a license to be lazy or sluggards. It is not a license to fall victim to doubt. The time is now to know what it is to grow in belief. The time is now to begin praying and discussing specific tasks and processes that we can discern. Who among us talk about a final exodus but don't want to talk about moving? Who among us talk about being gathered from the four corners of the earth but doesn't talk about what that structure look like and resembles? Who among us say that I want to lead but do not discuss what it takes to lead? Who among us think that leadership means to serve? I do. Leadership, a leader is a servant. Who among us can say our leaders, our mores, our influential individuals are demonstrating how we should act, how we should govern ourselves? Or are they busy competing in vanity, in dress? Are they busy trying to out-talk one another? Are they busy trying to scratch one another's back in position with labels? Ask yourselves, my brothers and sisters, let us ask ourselves, are our mores, teachers, and leaders, are they demonstrating how we should govern ourselves? Or are they trying to prove that they are the leaders, that they are in charge? And I ask the question, how did they get in charge? Self-proclaimed? By time? They was the first to come into the truth? My brothers and sisters, the time is now to begin to ask anyone that we are following, are they demonstrating how we are to be governed, how we should govern ourselves, how we are to walk in set apartness? Or are they just feeding us information? You see, my brothers and sisters, if we look at all those who were led by the Almighty Father, if we look at those who are set apart ones of the Almighty Father in Scripture, they imparted things that are necessary to apply to our lives now and going forward. They apply things to us. They ministered to those who they were charged to for the purposes of being a light, a beacon towards the Almighty Father. We must begin to ask ourselves, do we see the tasks? Do we see the processes? Do we see the methods in which one are governing themselves to bring about the unity that is necessary for these end times? Allow me to ask the following questions to those who have a specific moral teacher whom they acknowledge as their leader or one of their leaders. Are any of them equipping you with what you need to know regarding end times? Are any of them discussing specific details regarding the intensity that will unfold during end times as it's written in scriptures? Are any of these leaders equipping you with the knowledge and the wherewithal to know what to do if you found yourself alone until such time as being drawn among those that are gathered? Or if you find yourself alone, period, until such time as physical death? Are anyone teaching us how to look at death, physical death, in the face and still shout hallelujah? Are there teachings going forth for us to prepare for those who may be left behind? So if we left behind, Do we know what to do? Do we know to still trust and know that this is the plan of the Almighty Father? You see, my brothers and sisters, his plan is unfolding, regardless of our perception, regardless of our position. End times are here. Let's get real, O Yashar'al. Look around. Things are getting intense. There are many distractions. There are many traps. There are many elements of pleasure and vanity. There are many things that are subduing our time. Let us never forget, with each breath that we have, it is the result of the word of the Almighty Father. Are we not aware of Deuteronomy 8:3? It reads, "And he humbled you and let you suffer hunger and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahuah." I say to you, O Yasharal, return to the promised land. It is my position that we will witness elders, councils come together, that we will witness leadership fashioned by the hand of the Almighty Father emerge in power. And we will begin to see a gathering like the world did not expect. The remnant will prove to be millions of people coming from the four corners of the earth. The remnant will prove to be millions, tens of millions, my brothers and sisters. You see, even in that number, we can boldly say a remnant. Tens of millions compared to 7.2, 7.4 billion people on this earth is still less than 1%. Still a fraction, still a remnant. But I believe that so many don't know how you can get so many people together in unity. Many people say, I don't believe it's possible. I don't see how that's possible before the physical return. And I say to you this, O Yasharal, look around. Search the scriptures. Examine end time words. It speak about much death and destruction. It speak about famine and pestilence, wars and earthquakes. Do you not think that environmental conditions, do you not think that life-threatening conditions can weaken a man, woman, or child, that it can cause one to fall on their knees when they don't know where the next breath will come? Do you not think that end times describe conditions that will make us physically, mentally, and spiritually weak, to such that we look towards the Most High and then recognize, oh, there you are? This will occur for those who are a little slow in receiving what is necessary. I say to you, O Yasharal, millions will come together for extreme conditions, cataclysmic conditions. Civil unrest and chaos will break out. The things that are necessary to break down these physical vessels to the point where we are weakened. Those who pursue the Most High will rise up in the strength, the confidence, and the power of set apartness as we discover that He is indeed within us, working in us, through us, one towards another. Now, yes, for the world and the wicked and the rebellious, they have their judgment. And they have what is expected of them. But I say to you, O Yasharal, though we struggle, though we may believe it's next to impossible, those mindsets will change. We will discern. We will grow in discernment. We will witness the wave of individuals coming into the truth, demonstrating the presence of the living Most High Father Yahuah working in us through His Spirit sent in Yahusha's name. I say again, my brothers and sisters, end times are here. There will be a final exodus before the physical return of Yahushua HaMashiach. The return to the promised land will prove to include the 144,000 in a great multitude. The return to the promised land will prove to demand preparedness, awareness, continued worship, and obedience. It will require these things and more. It will require us building set-apart expectations such that we can identify when and if the Most High is bestowing upon us specific tasks and processes that must be done in specific times. Watch, pray, Seek to discern. Rise up, O Yashar'al. There is much work to be done. Until next time, my brothers, my sisters, let us look at the person in the mirror with prayer and ask that the Most High make clear the things we see. Open our ears that we can hear clearly what He has to say on anything and everything as it relates to the tasks and processes that bring about the worship and obedience necessary for us to hear our Almighty Father, Abba Yahuah, say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Until next time, O Yashar'al, let us know that the realities of what exists requires us to recognize the tasks and processes. It requires us to recognize and discern what must be done. It requires us to know that we must forge set-apart expectations in an effort to be able to see and identify specific goals, tasks, actions that are required of each of us. It begins with the one in the mirror, and then it begins with us collectively. A set-apart nation awakes. Until next time, my name is Symmanayah. I say to you, my brother, my sister, those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, both Hebrews and Gentiles, brought together as one nation, Yashar'al, set apart by Yahusha Mashiach. Until next time, Shalum, Shalum, Shalum.